Te Ururoa Flavell.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou katoa. Can I just start by acknowledging all of the acknowledgements made already by those who have been a part of this working party. My colleague Marama Fox was certainly a part of it, and I very much appreciated the involvement. Can I also acknowledge Kennedy Graham for driving this kaupapa. He drove it so much that he forced me to make a statement in the House this afternoon on behalf of our party. So thank you very much, Kennedy, and appreciate your commitment to this kaupapa. Ka nui te mihi. Mr. Speaker, issues about climate change are not things that I really know too much about, but what I do know about is the effect that it's having on communities at this point in time, in particular in Mairohe of Wairiki. I'm thinking about those communities of Edgecombe, Ruatoki, Ruatahuna, and as we debate this particular issue, I send my thoughts, and I'm sure those of the House, back to those families and those kāinga back at Wairiki and indeed throughout the country as we experience not a very nice Easter weekend. Mr. Speaker, governments of the world have agreed to limit average global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. The Paris Agreement, which New Zealand ratified on the 4th of October 2016 and which came into force on the 4th of November 2016, commits ourselves and the world to the so-called net zero goal by the end of the century and puts in place a longer-term framework to achieve this by agreeing to a new universal climate change agreement. This new universal climate change agreement needs to set the world on a clear path of a declining emissions over time. The reality of the science indicates that global emissions need to be halved by 2050, and at some point in the second half of the century, emissions need to be so low that healthy ecosystems such as forests can readily absorb the emissions that are left. A transformation to a climate-neutral, clean energy economic model needs to occur now. In those areas where it has begun, it's already delivering huge benefits in and between nations. So while the goal of the Paris Agreement is very clear, how different countries achieve this is not so clear. The Vivid report identified that for New Zealand, the transition to emission neutrality will require more than the current practice. It will require changes in land use, pathways relying less on breakthrough technologies in energy and agriculture will require more extensive afforestation by 2050. Mr. Speaker, it could be possible for New Zealand to reach net zero emissions by 2050 by combining the high uptake of technological innovation with switching to less emissions-intensive agricultural production, high levels of afforestation and the end of energy-intensive industries. Substantial gaps in New Zealand's evidence base on domestic mitigation must be addressed to support well-informed decision-making in the future, and the Māori Party wants to be a part of this. However, Mr. Speaker, the Māori Party believes that New Zealand's ability to achieve domestic emissions neutrality in the second half of the century and to meet its medium and long-term emission reduction obligations are fundamentally flawed, as current policies allowed for emitters to offset their obligations with low-cost credits without the need to reduce emissions. Current policies incentivise major emitters who have been able to purchase cheap Ukrainian units to surrender these to meet their obligations while charging Māori and indeed New Zealand householders a huge out-of-reach price for units. So we also believe that there's been some negligible investment in low-emission technologies resulting in foresters leaving the change system and planting is virtually zero. This has a huge impact on Aotearoa and also on those hapu and iwi who have received large forests as a part of their treaty settlement and so have large carbon credits that are virtually worthless. This sort of statement has been made to me in the Wairiki area. And so, Mr. Speaker, we welcome the Vivid report which highlights afforestation as one way forward. The Māori Party would want to see change within the climate area, as it has also got huge implications socially, economically and culturally, as well as environmentally. The Māori Party is committed to ensuring New Zealand's natural resources and environment is healthy for everyone, and to support the health and well-being of our people, this requires that environmental degradation is addressed. So, we believe New Zealand has time to transition to a low emissions economy, but there are benefits to take to taking strategic action and signalling long-term intentions now. We support the outcomes of this report.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Peter Dunn.